Hello. Sammy here from the Gateway team, and I am here to talk to you today about the first of my top 3 protagonists in anime. This is part of my top 3 in anime series. The last time I did my top 3 antagonists, but today, let's talk about the protagonists. Now, before we jump in, I've got to give you a heads up. There will, of course, be spoilers in these videos, so if you haven't seen the animes that these characters hail from, I strongly suggest pressing pause, but if you have watched the shows or you don't mind about spoilers, let's jump on in. Almost never is the protagonist my favorite character in a show. It's almost always a supporting character. The protagonist always needs to be somewhat universal so that it can actually carry an audience through with the story, whereas the supporting characters get to be a little bit more specific and a little bit more nuanced. Now, obviously, the characters I'm talking about, I think, have wonderful nuance and are very compelling and interesting. But are they my favorite characters in the shows they hail from? Very rarely. Now, one of the major tropes that we see with protagonists, particularly in shonen series, is that of the unflappable, pure of heart protagonist who just has an impossible goal that he shapes the world and those around him by the sheer nature of his goodness. Almost always a he as well. They're almost a Jesus Christ-like figure, without all the baggage, but often the daddy issues. I want to become the strongest. I want to be the pirate king. I want to save my friends all the time? I don't know. Anyway, you see this repeat itself over and over and over. Asta, Black Clover, Bam, Tower of God, even to a lesser extent Hinata from Haikyuu. But to truly care about a character, we need to understand more than what is their primary goal and objective. No, we need to understand what is their true, deepest weakness. This is what enables us as an audience to relate to the characters. It makes them feel human. It makes them feel real. Now, I'm not saying the characters I just mentioned are bad protagonists. No. It's just that they are so pure-hearted and virtuous that it's very difficult for us as an audience to relate to them. So if this trope is ubiquitous and it's across all shonen anime, then how do we find a character who is the glue that brings everyone together, who changes the world in service to his goal and those around him, but has fundamental flaws that make him relatable and human? Well, to me, that is Naruto Uzumaki.
Okay, so Naruto is as tropey a protagonist in anime as you can get. However, what made Naruto compelling in the early days was that in a field of underdogs, he was the quintessential underdog. And being an Australian, I have a soft spot for an underdog. Yes, it turns out he always had a great and terrible power to draw upon, and that made him special, but the whole thing was that that power was the source of his ostracization and very real loneliness. Consequently, the flawed Naruto we meet buries that hurt by projecting a brash, immature indifference. If you don't want me, I'm going to vandalize our national monument. And, even more interesting, if you don't want me, I'm going to become the Hokage and show everyone that I'm worthy of love.
この俺はいずれ火影の名を受け継いで、んでよ、先代のどの火影をも超えてやるんだ。でさ、里のみんなに俺の力を認めさせてやんだよ。
It's heartbreaking. The world has tragically made Naruto feel small, so he rebels by desiring to present as big as he can. So, because we understand that his crazy goal is underpinned by a deep wound, and we see a person presenting a different face to bury that wound, the narrative primes us, more than most shonen I'd argue, to invest in Naruto's journey. Just compare and contrast with the One Piece pilot. I dare you. Okay, no, don't at me, please. Anyway, it is a journey Naruto goes on, not naturally blessed with talent like his rival Sasuke. Everything he does is extremely difficult for him. The only way he could achieve anything was through sheer willpower, drive, and determination.
Not many of us are natural-born geniuses. Many of us have to fight and challenge ourselves to become the best version, even if we are fortunate enough to be pursuing the thing that we love.
Life is a constant battle, and Naruto, who had been dealt a poor hand right from the start, was railing against his station. Naruto fighting a battle at the edge of his talent to learn the Rasengan always hits me right there. Note here, this is more well-worn ground in anime. Throw a stick and you'll hit the genius versus hard worker trope. What sets Naruto apart is, I think, the way Kishimoto reveals his character through the obstacles Sasuke represents. So many animes have the hard worker be confronted with genius and, rallying all the purity and goodness, just work harder. Asta, anyone? But Naruto, while he does all that, also is a total a-hole to Sasuke. And it's kind of awesome. When Sasuke makes Naruto feel small, the big, scary feeling he's, trying to be the strongest ninja in the village and or world to bury, Naruto's real flaws are revealed. He's petty, he's jealous, he's angry, he's immature, he's delusional. And in doing so, despite everything, they make Naruto real. It's for the same reason it hits so hard when just a few acts of basic human kindness are enough to stop Naruto in his tracks.
それ全部きれいにしたら今晩ラーメンおごってやる
To bury his hurt, he presents as kind of unflappable, but when he gets what he needs most of all, to really be seen and cared for and respected, it totally unzips him. And we buy that it's these acts of kindness that are watering the seeds of his greatness as much as anything else. And somehow, it makes you believe him when he says things as on the nose as, I believe that a day will come when we can learn to understand one another. If Naruto doesn't believe that, as his master Jiraiya did, what hope does he have? Which is what makes his relationship to Sasuke so compelling.
Like many shonen protagonists, Naruto doesn't particularly change as a character throughout the course of the story. It is the world that changes around him. He is the planet around which everyone else orbits. His talk no jutsu is famous for a reason.
And yet, again, more so than in other shows, not everyone is won over to his way of thinking, or his way of the ninja. He has to work his ass off to convince people that he is right, that the world can be changed by positivity, hard work, and conviction. And this is a fight that ultimately sits at the heart of his rivalry with Sasuke, who, based on his experience to the contrary, is not afraid to call bullshit. To this end, Naruto's pig-headed belief that Sasuke is redeemable is perhaps the most frustrating thing about Naruto's character, despite it being rooted in his recognizable wound. No matter what Sasuke does, and no matter what anyone else tells him, he can never accept that Sasuke cannot be saved. The emotional stakes are too high to ever accept that his philosophy is wrong. Now, whilst this is good characterization, I really feel like Kishimoto missed a trick here. Yes, the whole idea is that Naruto and Sasuke break the cycle of hatred, kind of, but it landed too simplistically for mine, particularly from Sasuke's side. Everyone just forgave him his sins far too quickly and inexplicably, especially Naruto. Had he died at the end of Shippuden, then I think we may have had a far more satisfying payoff, because it would have made Naruto confront his wound and his journey and accept, on some level, that for better or worse, we're all shaped by what wounds us. This was never right versus wrong. It was two damaged people coming from different places trying to find connection despite that difference. Once we get to Shippuden, well, after the pain arc at least, I believe Kishimoto changed the core character from the scrappy, hardworking underdog to more of a chosen one, messianic type of character. One who was preordained to be the world's savior, another big trope, therefore circumventing the key character trait that made Naruto who he was. Frankly, it's not an interesting concept to me. Unless you subvert the idea entirely and focus on the pressure and weight of expectation of being chosen, like Shinji in Neon Genesis, but hey, that's a video for another time. Shinji, click like and subscribe. I said click like and subscribe, Shinji! Making Naruto the chosen one felt like a massive cop-out after we'd spent so long barracking for him to persevere in the face of overwhelming adversity and against all odds. Once we as an audience discover that he was always intended by the fates to be the savior, he automatically becomes less relatable. And it was from this point, the closure of the pain arc, that the show started to lose its way for me. The power scaling became ridiculous and we lost a little bit of the magic around Naruto that had drawn me to his plight for over 15 years. Now, all that being said, it's still probably the most important anime I've ever watched, and will forever occupy a place in my top shows of all time. Naruto is somewhat of a formulaic protagonist, but if every formula was crafted as well as this one, well, you couldn't be too unhappy.
Well, there you have it. That is the first of my top 3 protagonists in anime series. Tune in next time to find out protagonist number 2. Now, it might take a little bit of time for video number 2 in this series to come out, but if you like what I'm doing with this series, you can check out my top 3 antagonists in anime series, which is on our YouTube channel, which you can check out right here. If you want to hear any more Naruto content, you can find our podcast episode, The Big 3, link in the description. If you want to hit us up on any socials, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and gatewaytoanime.com. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.